Committee meeting. My name is Renee Allen. I am the chair of this Energy Committee, and I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. On December 3rd, 2020, public notice of this meeting was posted on the town website and on the bulletin board at the town offices at 10 Front Street. As provided in that public notice, the public may access the meeting online and phone. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote, alphabetically by first name. Please let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting and who that person is, like a son or a spouse. This is required under the right to know law. So we'll start with Amy.
Amy Farnham, there are 2 boys in the room, my sons.
Okay, and Lou?
Lou Hithroat, and there is no one in the room with me, and I'm a member of the Energy Committee.
Okay, and Julie?
Good afternoon. I'm the Selectman's rep to the Energy Committee, and I am alone, but my cat may pass over the screen.
And Dave?
Dave Sharples, Town Planner. I'm in my office alone.
Okay, thank you for everybody. And I just want to, it's the year end. This comes to be our 3rd year as an Energy Committee closing out. And I'd like to thank the committee members for all their help throughout the year. If this were a regular meeting and we were around a table, I would be in there with the candy and the cookies and we'd be having kind of a little festival, but not this year. So in lieu of that, I'd just like to say thank you very much. Let me see. I see Cliff just joined in. So let me just have Cliff do his roll call.
You're
mute.
Yes, Cliff Sinnott here. No one else in the room.
Okay, thank you. Also, I'd like to thank everybody that's viewing. I see on our Facebook and the YouTube that we have between 100, 300, sometimes 700 people look at this video. So thank you for viewing. Thank you for your interest, and it's our honor and our privilege to serve the town of Exeter. So on to the agenda here. I'm just going to start with the approval of minutes from last month. Could I have a motion to approve or questions, comments?
I think that the minutes you sent were from October. Did you see my email about that?
Oh gosh, no, I didn't.
Oh.
Okay. Originally I've sent it twice. So I think I sent the November ones at one point.
I just have October also.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't we put that off to the side and then we'll approve both minutes at the next meeting?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Now I'm going to do a little screen share here. Oh, Bob, could you put my screen share on so I can put up the visual agenda?
Yep, you should be able to go now. Sorry about that.
No problem. Try again.
There were minutes you sent on November 18th for the November meeting.
Oh, good. Okay, but we'll adjust that. Let's see, share. Okay, so since we're in a new habitat, we're in the Zoom habitat, and we have people watching on Facebook, I'd like to offer a visual agenda for everybody. This agenda says what we're going to talk about at this meeting. We have a guest speaker tonight. We have Andrea Hodson. After Andrea's finished, we're speaking about electric vehicles, greenhouse gas reduction goal, and solar. A few solar things, actually. It's kind of like popcorn. We've had these various solar things hanging around for the 3 years, and they're kind of starting to pop. At the end, we'll talk about Camille Weber, who is a freshwoman at Exeter High School. And then over here, committee and municipal workshops. These are things that we or the town has attended. So we had an EV permitting workshop that the town planner and a few others attended last month, and we all attended the Local Energy Solutions Conference before that. Additionally, in our charge is public education. So upcoming, we have this on the agenda. We're going to talk about heat pump seminars that we're going to be offering this winter. We offered them last winter in person. This time we're going to go on Zoom. And below that, kind of faded out, are two other videos that we have recently done. And these videos are hosted, as all videos will be, on our webpage on the town website. Okay, so stop share. I'm back. Okay, so to start things off, we have Andrea Hodson. She's going to be speaking about community power aggregation. She is a select woman, and she is also on an aggregation committee in her own town, which is way up in the north. She calls it a nano town. So Andrea she may switch her picture off because of low bandwidth. So if she goes away, she's just trying to keep her voice strong while her picture goes away. Okay, thank you, Andrea, for coming. Oh, you're muted.
Okay. There you go. There you go.
I'm sorry about that. In Harrisville, after almost a year of Zooming, we can all read each other's lips. Let's see. I'm on the select board. I'm a member of the Electric Aggregation Committee. Our board appointed the Electric Aggregation Committee at the end of April, and our committee has been meeting weekly since the first week in May. So we are on our 31st meeting this week. And I have a slide that shows you our milestones if it would make it any easier. But basically, we are a team of 7. And over the spring, the summer, and heading into fall, we have been really just looking under the hood of the legislation, the utility industry. We've been networking with representatives of towns and cities all over the state. We've attended some conferences that have had pulled in speakers from other states where community power is a really mature thing. And so we've seen what best practices can look like. We had been meeting once a week, getting a fix on what it's all about and how it might benefit Harrisville. And then right about August, we realized that we were getting way out in front of our community because, of course, we were just imbued with the content. So we started our first community conversation. We put up a website, and I can show you that if you like. And we started to develop all these channels because ordinarily in Harrisville, we would meet at the Mill Building about upcoming warrant articles and have several community conversations around what they are and get the input in person. So I'm here to tell you not to underestimate or, we've just realized the challenge of connecting with our neighbors and community and to get their input, and of course just to let them know what's going on. If you want to, I can just put up our milestones, which really helped us organize our work. I have it here. Let's see, do I have permission, Renee, to share? Yes, it looks like I do. So here it is. Do you see it? Do you see it? All right. So what helped us get going is really just to set our sights on making the decision to bring a warrant article to town meeting 2021. At the time, of course, we thought that would be March. Now we're not so sure, but working backwards from there, we set our milestones. And so as you see, we had a community conversation by Zoom in September. We had our first public hearing last week. We have our second one, which we'll schedule for January. Those are the obligatory public hearings that you need to have. And then we will bring our warrant article to the select board. I think that's due February 2nd. We'll have another community conversation if anybody wants, if everybody is not yet completely up to speed. And then, of course, we'll have the town meeting, which is community power is something that's authorized by your legislature. So that's our town meeting, and that would authorize then the select board to go ahead and select the service providers, and then we can launch our project, our community power plan. This is just a quick at a glance of all the channels we've been working to reach our community virtually with very little person-to-person going on right now. So we set up a website. We have a newsletter. We put in articles. We've done 2 surveys now. We're working on a third to push out information, collect reactions back from people. And we have this master email community conversation distribution list that we use as well, with nearly everybody in town on it. So I don't know, how much you know about community power and how to go about organizing it, but I can roll through that as well. I think I had a question about whether it makes sense to go forward with a community power initiative ahead of the PUC, which is working out its rulemaking. But of course, again, the legislation was passed in October 2019. The PUC will need to follow up with their rulemaking. I don't think that's going to be done until the second quarter next year. However, it's our understanding that what they're, the basics of a community power plan will not be affected by what rulemaking finally lands next in the second quarter of 2021. So the basics of offering rates, of offering renewable energy sources, of building a reserve fund, those kind of elements of the community plan probably won't be affected in any surprising way by the PUC. I think it comes down to some of the very technical elements that we don't foresee implementing in the first year or two ourselves anyway, such as the capacity to get real-time information about metering and usage and that kind of thing. But I can go into more detail if you want to know. But yeah, so if you want to ask me anything to guide the conversation from here, I'm happy to answer questions.
Andrea, I'm curious. My name's Amy. Sorry. I'm curious about how the public hearings went. What kind of feedback have you gotten so far?
We have the majority of people who are engaged with us are supporting our initiative. So the people who are engaged with us they get what the opportunity is for better rates, and we've just got our first draft out to the community of our electric aggregation plan, which is the framework of how to implement community power. So in it, we're proposing, for instance, a 3-tier rate plan. If community power is authorized at town meeting, the electric aggregation plan that would be implemented would be offered with 3 tiers. The default rate, which, you can't really put the rates per se because they're just a moving target, but we put in criteria. So, for instance, we're pegging our default rate to Eversource, which is the supplier and distributor here in the Harrisville Southwest region of New Hampshire. So we're pegging our rate plan to Eversource. So our default will match or be competitive, will be lower or competitive with Eversource, and will offer 50 to 100% renewable energy. Mm-hmm. Our opt-down level would be likely the same or less than Eversource's default rate and would offer up to 50% renewable. And then we have an opt-up, which would be carbon-free for either the same rate of Eversource or slightly more. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback about that. And as you may know, of course, Eversource is compelled to offer up to something like 22% renewable at this point, and that rises to 25% in 2025. So, through our plan, we're looking to accelerate that mix in our supply. Another element of our aggregation plan is the reserve fund. So in it, we are proposing that some amount surcharge would be charged to participants that would go into a community plan reserve fund. And that fund would be used for short-term and medium-term, long-term projects ranging from possible projects or programs that assist with weatherization at the short-term simple end, and at the more complicated technical end, work and development of microgrid. So we've gotten a lot of community support about that. We do have support. It was an area of controversy in our team, and it is an area of controversy to a lesser extent out in the greater community about whether to establish our plan as an opt-in or an opt-out. I don't know if you recognize those terms. If the plan is approved or authorized at town meeting, everyone on an Eversource default plan would be automatically enrolled in our plan once it's launched, with the, of course, freedom to opt out. So people are for that. I think one area of confusion or clarification that we've provided to a lot of people as we get as our communication puddle gets bigger has to do with net metering, and we plan to offer a net metering program that's similar to what Eversource does, and possibly at a higher advantage. So we're getting, we have we have some percentage of homes that are generating their own power. And so they were wondering if they could be a part of it and not lose their net metering arrangement with Eversource. It would just transfer into our plan. So yeah, we're building momentum. It's taken longer. So we started communicating with community at the end of August, beginning of September. And we're really just trying to track, who's engaging with us, who's keeping up, so that we can make a point to make sure that the majority of people who are coming to town meeting to vote on this will be informed.
Andrea, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Well, first I'd like to note that I see in the attendees that we do have two outside attendees. One is Lisa Sweet from the Rye Energy Committee, and I think the other may be Tom Fowl from the Rye Energy Committee. They both have Eversource. But we have Unitil, and I'd like to ask you, we are much further behind than you. We have not officially created our committee yet, so I assume that you have an official committee which has been blessed by your select board or your oversight, your town oversight, and that you have requested your data from Eversource. Is this true?
Yep.
Okay, so when you got your data, and did you do number crunching to come up with the rates that you are talking about, even though they're, a moving target, as you say? How close could you come to what the actual rate was to say that it would be lower, or how much lower than it would be than the default rate of Eversource at this moment, or at the moment when you launch?
Well, we don't know, we can't say what the rates will be. What we have learned through our research is that it will likely be possible to work with supply rates that are 7.068 or less. So whether it's a half penny or a whole penny or 2 pennies, it's hard because you're not really, what you want to try not to do is get too focused on like the rate itself on a bill. What you're really, I think, working with is what the annual is over the course of a year. And so just because it's such a volatile market, so yeah, if it's not a half penny, it's a whole penny or 2. I think that's the best I can offer you. In the case where we are matching Eversource's default rate, what the community advantage is still going to be is the funding of our reserve fund. So even if the best we could do for some reason was equal to what Eversource is offering over the course of an entire 12-month billing cycle, we're still able to collect 1/10 of a penny, 4/10. I mean, we've made a couple of scenarios for our community to digest. But yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you. And let me just say for the benefit of people who are viewing that this reserve fund would be something that a 1/10 of a penny or whatever goes into from everybody's bill. And this would fund clean energy projects that the town could then go ahead and make solar arrays or whatever, thus driving us even further into a 100% goal of clean energy that we procure.
Right. Yes. And we, right. It's a community plan reserve fund. So no matter who the service provider is or partner to the select board to implement this plan, it's like you think of it as like a bank account, a reserve fund that the select board would use to finance projects, not necessarily for the municipality. Right. Okay.
Andrea, it's Lou Hitzrodt. I have a couple of questions. Can you tell us a little bit about what is going to be in your warrant article?
Well, we're just tinkering with the actual language of the warrant article, which will sound like something along the lines of to see if the town will vote to authorize community power and authorize the select board to send the electric aggregation plan to the PUC, which is a step you have to do,
right.
And select the service provider. We haven't quite set up the time frame yet, but this goes with the electric aggregation plan. So we haven't quite figured out how to, staple it to the warrant article, but the electric aggregation plan provides the framework for the existing select board or a new select board to implement it along the lines of what is being discussed this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad to share a copy. It's actually up on our website. Our version 1.0.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's something like that.
That would be great if you could share that with us. I'm also interested in knowing to what extent you've been able to lean on CPNH to help you. Has it been useful, and should we be getting more involved with it, I guess?
Oh, I highly recommend you do. I don't think that our team would have gotten as far as we have or felt as solid as we do about the content because it is dense.
Exactly.
Right? So many of us coming to this electric aggregation team, really our relationship to the utility has been nothing more than paying a bill. Now we're electricity cost explainers. And So we have worked very closely with I think they're CPCNH.
Oh, it is. It's changed now?
Community Power New Hampshire, Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, I highly recommend, because not only do they have a lot of resident technical expertise, but they're very well networked. And so there are, the so-called first mover towns like Nashua and Lebanon and Hanover.
Right.
And so we have connected with some of those committees to, hear what they do and what's possible. And that has really been through CPNH. Yeah, they are one of 3 potential service providers that we have,
Right.
that we're thinking of recommending to the select board and to the town.
So you have reached out to other service providers as well.
Yes, we interviewed 3 commercial brokers.
Right.
Right. So there's and the way we think of them, there's commercial brokers like Standard Power and Freedom Energy, I think it's called. And then there was a third one. And then there's CPNH as another alternative. And of course, we see that as being a very different entity, because that will be organized by municipalities, for municipalities, and without a profit motive.
And have you coordinated with any surrounding communities already, or is that something you will do later on in the process? We looked at early on in our quest. We looked at do we do this by ourselves? Do we do this with some of our neighbors or another town across the state? Because of course, we're in our Zoom world, so anything's possible. Right. Sure. Or do we do this through an aggregator like Community Power New Hampshire? And we last year, of course, we just ended last year with a town vote, our whole broadband quest. So we learned a lot about partnering with other towns relative to the curiosities of getting synced up with town meeting authorizations. So what we decide, we do attend the Monadnock Sustainability Hub meetings. I attend those. There was one last night to help each other navigate all of this, but we are not partnering with a town per se. We're going to go with the service provider that's going to aggregate. What we might do in future years is partner with some of our adjacent towns to do something like microgrid work. Right. Then it makes sense because you have the project physicality. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, yeah. And do you have any recommendations for us as to how we should form a aggregation committee? Who should be on it? Who we should reach out to? Well, I can tell you what worked for us. We are a team of 7. We meet weekly. And sometimes more frequently when we're looking at when we're attending a conference or, interviewing somebody, right, that's not able to meet with us, but we do keep it to a sharp hour. And so we're a group of 7. I would recommend what's worked for us anyway, is that our members represent a range of community roles. They represent a range of personal expectations about what the initiative is about, and perspectives. We have benefited from members who have considerable teaming experience so that we can work quickly and count on each other to do what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it. And certainly having a healthy skepticism on the team is good, because then you're not working with blinders. And we have, people that have just moved into Harrisville, people who've been here for a while. We have people on the boards, like the planning board. We have one individual who was the point person in replacing the hydro
generator at the Harrisville mill. So he does a lot of our number crushing for when we get information from Eversource. And age and gender. And it's all really come together quite well. And I think the willingness to leverage technology to meet and do the work online, because of course we can't do it in person.
Right.
So I can say that we did not, aside from the fellow who was the point person on the hydroelectric dam generator that was done at the mill, we did not necessarily bring technical expertise. We brought in that technical experience and expertise and guidance from CPNH, really.
Okay.
That's kind of what they're organized to do is, where you don't have the staffing, where you don't have the expertise, they're there with that.
Mm-hmm. Good.
I'd be interested in seeing what you have for a mission statement, or when the select board established the committee, was there, a set of goals or that kind of the explanation that you just gave as the membership, or, because we typically have a mission statement for our various boards that the selectmen appoint members to. So people have an expectation of what they're going to be doing, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think we had a articulated mission statement per se, Julie. Ned Holbert, who's the co-chair of our Electric Aggregation Committee, read an article in the newspaper about the legislation. And one thing led to another. And 31 meetings later. Yeah. So, right. But we were, but the electric aggregation, committee, which is required by the legislation, is tasked to develop the electric aggregation plan. Now, we did our plan within the framework and reference to our community's master plan. So, other communities have, like Keene or Peterborough, they're doing their work with a whole nother initiative that may or not exist in Exeter, which have to do with, being renewable by 2035 or whatever those type of initiatives are. For us, it was actualizing a lot of the vision that was institutionalized in our master plan.
Thanks, that's great. And the other thing, which is going a little off of that topic, but I want to come back to something. When you were talking about the 3-tier system,
yes.
That was the tiers had to do with the amount of renewable resources that were used in the generation of the power we're buying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you like to see a picture of that? I think I may.
Sure.
It's not in my slide deck. Wait, let me just see if I can find it real quick. But
Andrea, if you can't find it, you could maybe email it to me, and then I can send it around to the committee, and we can show it at the next. Okay.
That'll be more efficient. But it's 3 tiers, and you'll see it's got the target cost and the target mix of renewable.
Okay.
Right. Because in your electric aggregation plan, you can't really quote. You can't. It's just a moving target.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Cliff, did you have any questions before she finishes up? Thank you.
I do. A couple of things. One is when you say, so you're not aggregating with other communities' demand as far when you go out to bid, it's just going to be the electric demand of the customers in Harrisville? Or are you going to aggregate?
No, Cliff, sorry, I wasn't clear. It's our recommendation, and it's in our electric aggregation plan, which I'll share with you, that we select a service provider like CPNH.
Okay.
And so we'll have our electric aggregation plan,
Yeah.
and then that will provide sort of a terms of reference or framework for the selected service provider to come back to us with those rates, with those renewable mixes. If they can't, it's a non-starter.
Right.
But yeah, so the service provider, like a CPNH, will have Nashua. They'll have a lot of the first mover towns already in their mix, and so we're effectively leveraging that purchase power.
So you'll have to wait till they get that put in place, basically, right? Because I don't think it's there yet.
Yeah, I think that it all comes together. It all comes together in probably the second quarter of 2021, right? I don't know really what we're doing with our town meeting this year. I don't think we're going to do ours by Zoom. So it'll be under a tent when the weather gets a little warmer. But at that point, then we'll be looking for the service provider. And then at that point, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So we're not looking to join them before second quarter of 2021. And we assume we're all going to come together pretty much at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tricky part because they can't get a bid until they know what their customer base is, I think. So it's kind of a chicken and egg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's one of the big, I don't know, have you been to a PUC? You haven't really lived till you've been to a PUC meeting, I don't think. But the one I sat in on, which was so fascinating, I think the utilities were really articulating a strong interest in having lots of lead time.
Yes.
When does a town, how many years, how many months, how many weeks do they get to notify that we're starting a plan, that we're moving into a community power aggregation? So, yeah. And of course, as I said, we know what our total aggregation is. This is what makes us a nano town. And we don't have, of course, the detail yet, but and you'll see in the plan that I send you when we do sort of modeling, we just assume that a certain percentage will opt out.
Sure.
A certain percentage are on third-party contracts, so they won't be eligible to opt in until they wiggle out of those. But yeah, it comes together. But I think there's actually, Cliff, a certain amount of assumption that's building now. It's not going to be like not knowing what their load is going to be in Q2. They're probably already starting to figure out what the possibilities are. It's really amazing. It's really an interesting market. Does that answer your question? Or
yeah, I think so. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Andrea before we let her go?
I just I was curious about the questions that you asked on your initial survey.
Yes, I can. What we did, there's the concept of community power, the legislation, and then there's the electric aggregation plan, right? So that's how. So the community power. We truncated that content since we were having to explain it to people who hadn't met for every week, for an hour. And so what we did, and what you'll see at our website, is we did the first base of information was what is community power, where we talked about the legislation and what the opportunities would be for Harrisville. We did a video. We did a Zoom for people to drop in. We created a document, had that at town hall. The survey is after reading the video and doing this, do you think this is a good idea? That was essentially the crux of that survey. Then we building on that foundation block, then we rolled out the electric aggregation plan. Mm-hmm. And so those questions had to do with, now that you know what it is, are we still on the right track? Our third survey is now going to go into the detail. Do you think a 3-tier rate plan is a good idea? Do you think a reserve fund at these funding levels is a good idea? A little bit more granular. Yeah.
Would it be possible for you to send us like a shots of those in the packet as well that you send to me?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, great. And then we can study those.
Sure. I will do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The now we're working on, one of the biggest requests we got at our first public hearing was can this be simpler? Can this be a one-page, just 3 bullet items? So we're working on that because, of course, once we started circulating our drafted electric aggregation plan, I think my husband was the first to declare it incomprehensible. Of course, by then we're so imbued with the content, it was like, what? So now we're working on a 5x8 card to hand out that's got the essence of it. Yeah, because you really want people to know, what it is. I'll put together a package if you like. Our first take on the electric aggregation plan, the surveys that we helped, that we distributed, and whatever else you might want to have.
More the better.
Yeah, and I will share that with Ryan, because I see that Lisa Sweet is still on the call. So I'll share that package with you, Lisa.
Okay. I'd just like to say that I'm also a state representative, and I was very excited to vote for this bill.
Yes, good, Julie. Thank you for help passing it. It's exciting. I think even in a state like California, where it's been around for a long time, they still have obstacles. So our committee realized that it's not going to be easy. To hang on to our gains and then to continue the progress. But it's a great start. And I think even though the PUC rulemaking hasn't settled and probably won't settle till second quarter next year, I think you can still go on and make that effort because the essentials will still be viable.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks. You're so welcome, Renee. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Andrea. Clarified lots of issues for me.
Okay. Anytime, just ping me and I'll be glad to give you more.
Great.
Okay. And I look forward to the packet with your information. I'll send that around to everybody.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great evening. Bye.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye. That was interesting. Okay, so next thing up on the agenda, we're going to be talking about electric vehicles. Dave and Amy and I worked on a memorandum of understanding kind of for the town planner to use or the sustainability officer, sorry, wrong hat, Dave, to use. We finalized that. I can put that up on the screen. Let me see if I... So this is what it looks like. On the front, it gives the statistics, and then on the back, it gives several case studies. I think we're all set with that. Dave, or Amy, do you want any comment on that?
No, I'm all set. Yeah.
Okay. Then we are all set with this, and Dave is going to be using this going forward.
Yeah, I'll be using it during the CIP process, which starts up the directive gets issued, I think, around April. And then we start, developing the plan in May and June.
Thank you. And we're still on board to have one electric vehicle transition this year in the police department?
I would have to, you mean for the previous CIP or the
Right.
the upcoming one?
The one that
2021.
the Prius was on, the Prius.
Oh, I thought he was already scheduled one, but we haven't done the next CIP, so
Okay. All
we
right.
haven't
Well,
gotten to that point, but he did have one last year. And I expect that to continue, but we haven't started the process for this year yet. I mean, for 2021.
right, as we're on the turnover here. Okay, well, I am hoping for very good things. I see that there's a lot of government appointees heading up the Department of Energy and the Department of Transportation and the EPA. So I am very encouraged that clean energy type things will be getting a big boost this year, and we are just going to jump on anything that comes our way. We're going to switch now to the Sustainability Officer update. So we've been on our committee, we've been talking about solar since we've been incepted, and we currently have a solar array at the DPW, and I got an email from Russ saying that the numbers are in from Sun Revolution for the buyout. Julie, did you get anything from us on that? This just came a couple days ago.
I have not seen it.
Okay, so I guess we'll talk about that at the meeting after this, but so we're getting ready on that Sun Revolution array. And so Dave, what have you got going on about the solar RFP?
Okay, but before that, I'll jump on the buyout because Russ asked me about that. He sent me the information. I'm digging into it. They offered a buyout. Originally, it was after year 10. It is year 8 right now, or year 7, going into year 8. It's one or the other. It's right around there. There's a couple years left. And they're offering the buyout early. And we're in consultation with staff and so forth, just verifying production and output and looking at, what if we bought it, there would be costs associated. We would have to take over the operations and maintenance of the facility and so forth. So I'm getting numbers for that, and we'll have a lot more information. I just started that actually like a day or two ago. So just starting to get information on that, and I'll be ready for your next meeting when we talk about it. Moving ahead to the solar on the RFP on the landfill, we got two, and I think I said this last time, but we got two quality responses from local firms that do this, that have experience in solar development development of solar arrays and on landfills. So we're very encouraged. We got together a panel that included Lou on our committee, Kristen Osterwood from the Sustainability Committee, Jennifer Mates, and Jay Perkins from DPW. The 5 of us interviewed the 2 firms last week via Zoom, and we are in the process of kind of finalizing a recommendation to who we want to partner with, and that's imminent. So it should be, I just sent out an email earlier today, and we should have, a clear path forward and, be able to describe our next steps at the next meeting. So that's where we're still figuring out and going to move forward with a firm to partner with to look at our options for the solar array. But what I got from I can let Lou too chime in, but what I got from the interviews that it was very positive reaction to the ability, what both firms see as the ability for the solar array, the feasibility of a solar array on the landfill. So that was very positive. They both firms felt that this is a viable project, and they didn't see anything to prevent the town from moving forward with an array at the landfill. So that was very encouraging. And that's all I have on that.
All right, thank you. The other thing I've asked you to speak about is your greenhouse gas resolution.
May I say a quick word before we do? Since I was at the meeting with Dave, but first I'd like to say we are very fortunate that we have a town planner who comes up with really good plans and knows how to implement them. I'm very, very hopeful that by the end of 2021, maybe beginning of 2022, that solar array may be a possibility. So things are moving fast and very positively, I think. End of statement.
Thank you. I'll jump into the greenhouse gas resolution. I had asked this committee before, from the greenhouse gas emissions inventory report that we did with the UNH fellow Rachel Nadolny this past summer. One of the recommendations was to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions from our municipal operations by 30% by 2030 and achieve net zero by 2050, which is consistent with a lot of resolutions that people are adopting, states and local municipalities and countries and so forth that are signing on to a commitment to that. So I felt a step in the right direction would be to write a greenhouse gas emissions resolution and bring it forward to the select board and have them consider and hopefully adopt a resolution with that commitment. But before I wanted to bring that to the select board, I wanted to get support from the Energy Committee and Sustainability Committee. So I just sent that final version over to Renee today. So I guess I don't think it's any rush. There's, got a lot on our plate here with zoning amendments and so forth coming up here this month and next. So I will send that finalized greenhouse gas emissions inventory that both Renee, the chair of your committee, and Chetna, the chair of the Sustainability Advisory Committee, has reviewed. So I'll send it out to you folks, and then hopefully at the next meeting, we'd ask for a vote of support on that. Does that sound good, Renee?
Yes. Yeah, I'm taking notes. Next meeting vote. Okay, I'll put that on the agenda for that. Thank you.
Thanks. And I'll send that out this week.
Okay, thank you. All right. Are you all done, Dave?
That is it for an update for me, yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So we'll move on to our next agenda item, the heat pumps. And Amy and I, last year, we did some winter programs on this. We did two. And on the second one, we had stopped shaking hands with people when they entered the house. And the third one, we just canceled altogether because COVID was coming on fast. And so anyway, we dodged a bullet on that. But so we're going to do them online this time. We're going to offer three. So Amy, you want to talk about the dates that we're talking about?
Oh, well, I'm just, I threw out some dates to you, and really it could be anything that works for you and I. I thought one should be a weeknight, one should be maybe a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, and then maybe a weekday during lunch, just to give people different opportunities depending on their schedule.
Great. And have you seen this? This is Maine, Efficiency Maine.
Efficiency Maine. No, I haven't seen it.
Yes, Efficiency Maine has a program for heat pumps. Remember how I had called you, Eunice Hill, and I talked with JVG about a program like this, and they weren't really on board so much last year? I think they may be getting closer this year, but Maine is already giving rebates.
Well, we are too. I mean, ours is just, ours is called New Hampshire Saves, and it's similar to Efficiency Maine, but it's offering similar rebates, not as much as $2,500, but I want to say $1,600 might be the maximum.
All right. Well, that's still good, but maybe they'll boost it. We'll see. Okay, so I did speak with Bob Glowacki, and I ran the dates by him, and he said that we were kind of good for a go on that. So you and I can get together and talk about the format of the webinars we're going to do. Okay, Great. We'll do that off of this meeting. Okay. Oh, we're coming up 6 minutes left. Okay, so on the other category, we're going to talk about Camille Weber, who is a freshman at the high school, and she has been working on solar. She's been appearing for the school board of the middle school and the high school to see if they are interested in more solar arrays. So, and I think Amy, you've been helping her on the school board. So, could you speak about it for just a minute? But let me just say that because we had the guest speaker tonight, we're going to have Camille come next month. So, if you could talk a little bit about it, please.
Yep. So Camille started this as an 8th grader. One of her teachers had them do a project. Actually, I think all 8th graders had to do it, but just something that they wanted to work on, and they had to show themselves doing, making progress towards some goal. And most kids were, my kid was like, I'm going to learn how to wheelie. But Camille was a little more ambitious, and she said, I want to get solar on CMS. So she and I talked about it a bit, and then we started looking at the high school because the high school is really a better location. And then she organized these meetings, and we walked around the high school with the current facilities manager and the one that just retired, and her teacher, and some other folks, some other stakeholders. We walked around, we looked at the best places for it, and this was through the summer. And this fall, she's continued on with this project. So even though, she's done as an 8th grader and now a 9th grader, she still feels strongly about it. And she is just amazing. Her capacity to push this thing forward. And last month, she went in front of, it wasn't the school, it's the facilities school board. So, one of their sort of subgroups, I guess, but they would be the ones to determine whether this is feasible or not. So she read a whole letter in front of them, and she had stats, and she had all sorts of, emotional kind of things behind it. It was really well done. And they each went around and told her how amazing she was. And she just, she's very excited about it. So they're looking at it. They haven't said, yes, absolutely, we're going to do it. But, they had lots of questions, and they definitely seemed interested. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, she sounds, like she's a real go-getter on this, and I'd really love to have a junior voice on our committee. The problem is, of course, that she's a junior voice. She's not eligible for the age, and that she also lives in Brentwood now as of maybe last year. So we have to decide how we can have her voice on our committee, especially since she's so interested in solar. All right. So we'll talk about her fully in our next program.
Amy, I had just a quick question. There's already a big solar array out at the high school, and this would be in addition to that. Is that correct?
That's correct. The high school uses a large amount, as you can imagine. So the current array covers, I don't know, maybe 10, 15% of their use.
Oh, that little, okay.
So, yeah, we're talking about something, 8 times the size, basically.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's exciting.
Are you looking at rooftop mounting too?
Yeah, really solely rooftop mounting, because it's a huge building, and it has, that roof the surface area is immense. And because of we can talk about this offline if you want, but it just works better to have it on the roof going right into the meter where all the electricity is, and not into some meter that has no load behind it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to talk about it a little more at the next meeting.
Sure.
All right, great. And we'll do that. And I believe that Camille is watching us live stream on Facebook. Hi, Camille. So she's getting to know our faces and our tweaks or whatever. So we'll welcome her next month. So before we close, I'd like to mention that next month, I'm also going to put on the agenda about the town hall attic update. Remember, we were interested in insulating the town hall, and we had some quotes, but then the steeple was getting fixed. So I'm going to put that up there. So put that in your crock pot. And then I'd also like to investigate building codes going forward. This is something probably that Dave and I will be talking about, some kind of efficiency building codes or whatever the newer things are going to be going forward.
There are a couple of bills that have to do with building code updates. They're going back and forth every year about whether or not we get matched the national standard, and or if towns can adopt separate ones, which I think they do anyway. So we have to watch for that. And what else did I have? Well, that's it for now.
All right, good. It just seems to me that if there's new construction, the heat pumps should be really considered as the source, because they're so efficient. I mean, why not? It's a win-win. And I think maybe a lot of people don't really understand that or know it yet. So we can discuss that later. Okay. All right. So Is there any other comment before we vote to adjourn?
And I think by next month, all of our LSRs will be turned into actual bills. So we can look at the language of any of the energy bills that are either going to repeal something or not be, or get presented yet again. So that might be something, maybe not for the next meeting, but the one after.
Okay. All right. Okay, everybody good? Somebody make a motion, please.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. I saw Lou. I saw his mouth go. All right, so Amy and Julie. Okay, 4:30. How about that?